Greetings to each of you and welcome to First Unity Church of St. Louis's Sunday service. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Ann Hardapy. I'm a licensed Unity teacher here at First Unity Church. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome you to our service today, and we are delighted that you chose to spend a little bit of your time with us today. I'd like to take a moment to express our deep appreciation to our extremely talented soloist, Dean Wiegert, our inspiring minister, Reverend Jan Mourning, and videographer extraordinaire, Kathy Boyd. Jan's message today is entitled, The Fishing Expedition. Let's begin our Sunday service this morning, like we do every other Sunday service, by reading the daily word. And we invite First Unity Prayer Chaplain Gladys Young to read this for us today.
Good morning. The word for today is understanding. Our affirmation today is, I am open to spiritual understanding. Will you say that with me? I am open to spiritual understanding. When I feel frustrated by a personal or professional challenge, or feel unsafe or concerned about a situation or event, I seek greater understanding. When I try to understand, I open my heart. Maybe I just need to gather more information or request the advice of someone that I trust. If I am in conflict with someone, I practice understanding by listening with a curious mind and a loving heart. I grow in spiritual understanding when I discern and heed my inner guidance. Beyond conscious thought, spiritual truth begins to illuminate my consciousness. As I release all that stands in the way of understanding and stand firm in the love that calls it forth, I am guided by my own growing spiritual understanding. And from Psalms 119 we read, Your decrees are righteous forever. Give me understanding that I may live. Let us close our outer eyes now and go within to pray. Father, Mother God, we are open now to the inflow of your peace and love and wisdom as we release our fears, our anxieties, and the challenges of this outer world. We are open now, right now, to receive your divine wisdom, the truth that illuminates our consciousness and gives us divine understanding. Be still now. Let go. Release. Listen. Listen and grow in spiritual understanding. Thank you, most precious Spirit, for your love and wisdom and your divine understanding.
Please don't be offended if I preach to you a while. Tears are out of place in eyes that were meant to smile. There's a way to make your very biggest trouble small. Here's the happy secret of it all. You've got to look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue. Remember, somewhere the sun is shining So it's the right thing to do, is make it shine for you, with a heart full of love and joy and gladness. And those things can banish all worry and strife. So always look for the silver lining and try to find the sunny side of life. Keep an eye out and look for that silver lining and try to find the sunny side of life. I will if you will.
Good morning. Some of you may have heard the story about Charlie, a fisherman who sat in the blazing sun all day long and caught nothing. Finally, he gave up and headed home. On his way, he stopped at the local fish market and said to the new owner, "Pick out 4 large rainbow trout and throw them at me, won't you?" The owner looked at him and said, "Why would you want me to do that?" Charlie responded, "Well, so I will be able to tell my wife in all honesty that I caught them." "Okay," said the owner, "but I suggest you take the salmon. Your wife was here earlier today, and she said if you came by, I should tell you that's what she would like for dinner. She's really tired of the trout." So, today we are going to explore another unsuccessful fishing expedition, a dramatic event vividly told in the 21st chapter of the Gospel of John. It's the story of Jesus appearing to 7 of his disciples at the Sea of Galilee after the resurrection. Jesus spent much of his ministry on those beautiful shores and hillsides of Galilee, and according to Matthew, the disciples are there now, per Jesus' instructions. Jesus says to the women at the tomb in Matthew, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." So our story begins with the disciples hanging around in Galilee, waiting for Jesus, when suddenly Peter says, "I'm going fishing." And the others chime in, "We'll go with you." So they all head for the fishing boat. Now, we might wonder why Peter decides to go fishing instead of waiting for Jesus. Did they need food? Was he tired of waiting day after day with no sight of Jesus? Maybe he lost faith that Jesus was even coming. The Interpreter's Bible suggests that the disciples might be experiencing ridicule on the street because of their master's crucifixion, and maybe they just felt the need to escape temporarily. Certainly, the death of Jesus had thrown the disciples' lives into confusion and chaos. Perhaps Peter is so discouraged and unsure about the future that in despair he turns back to his old way of life, to what he had done before Jesus commissioned him to become a fisher of men. And the others, like lemmings, follow Peter right back to the familiar sounds and smells of being on the water in the moonlight, hoisting the sails, feeling the familiar ropes in their hands, focusing on nothing but the fishing nets floating in the sea. Now, while going fishing might have seemed like a good idea at the time, it was contrary to what Jesus had told them just a week ago during his first appearance to them after the resurrection. In John 20:21, we read, Jesus says to them, "As the Father has sent me, so I send you." And I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't mean to send them back to fishing. Just think how history would have been different if the disciples had permanently returned to their old jobs. And actually, that fishing trip does not go well. The disciples fish all night long, which was the custom on the Sea of Galilee, but they catch nothing, not one single fish. And guess what? There were no fish markets in sight. At least 4 of the 7 disciples involved had been fishermen, seasoned fishermen, and fished on that sea all their lives. How is it possible that they could fish all night long and not even catch enough for breakfast? Maybe the message for us here is that once we are called to our true purpose, it just doesn't work to go back to our old way of life, no matter how safe and comforting that may seem. So early in the morning, nets empty, hands empty, hearts empty, the disciples see a man standing on the shore. It is Jesus, but they don't recognize him. We might wonder about that also. The text says they were only about 100 yards from the shore. Perhaps it was overcast or foggy, or maybe they were so hungry and exhausted from their fishing failure that they weren't even thinking about Jesus. But remember last week we talked about Mary Magdalene, and she had not recognized him in the garden either. The deeper meaning seems to be that in the midst of lack, loss, or any negative appearance, the Christ within is always present, but we're not always aware of that presence. So Jesus calls to the men from the shore, saying, "Friends, haven't you caught any fish?" Now this reminds me of the old Dr. Phil question. It's like he's saying, "How's this fishing trip working out for you, fellas?" And then Jesus, still unrecognized, tells them to cast on the right side of the boat. They do so and catch a full net of fish. Because the disciples so readily follow the advice of a man on the shore, perhaps something deep inside of them recognizes their master before they become fully conscious of his identity. I think that's happened to all of us also. And what is the significance of the right side of the boat? Bible scholars insist that Jesus didn't just say the other side of the boat, he said the right side. And here's the thing. Galilean fishermen always fished from the left side of the boat. That's actually how their boats were equipped. The disciples' fathers and their fathers' fathers would have fished on the left side. That would have been all they had ever known. But Jesus is asking the disciples to turn away from old societal expectations and to do something new, something they have never done before. Unity Metaphysical Bible scholar Reverend Ed Townley says, "This shows us that Christ often calls us to let go of knowing what we know, or I might add, knowing what we think we know, and to approach life from a fresh perspective." And it seems that often life calls us to exercise our powers of discernment and wisdom and the courage to change our thinking and behavior. Metaphysically, the boat represents a state of consciousness, and the right side symbolizes the side of spiritual truth and power. The right side is what our daily word addresses today, spiritual understanding. In only human consciousness, we can work, stress, and strain in the dark night without the light of spiritual understanding, and often we will catch no fish, no prosperity, no peace, no solutions to our problems. Please tell me I'm not the only one who does that sometimes. Or we can turn our pivotal souls away from appearances of lack and limitation, knowing that we are one in a power that is greater than any challenge on this physical plane. Metaphysically, the Sea of Galilee represents spiritual insight, discernment, and good vision. And the fish symbolizes ideas of increase in a sea of infinite possibilities. One Bible scholar wrote that when Jesus asked his beloved disciples, "Friends, have you caught any fish?" He's really asking them, friends, have you caught any divine ideas? When we turn to the Christ of our being, our nets overflow with divine ideas of goodness and purity and power. We realize our infinite storehouse of wisdom, strength, faith, and love, and unimaginable blessings flow. And as our story unfolds, John is the first one who recognizes Jesus from the shore. John represents love, and love enables us always to recognize the Christ. But it is Peter, the impetuous one, who grabs his outer garment and wades to the shore, leaving the other disciples to follow behind, dragging the huge haul of fish in the shallow water. And when they reach shore, Jesus is cooking their breakfast of bread and fish over a welcoming charcoal fire, ready to feed their human hunger just as he has fed so many times their hearts and souls. Interestingly, the only other time in the entire Bible that a charcoal fire is featured is when Peter sat around a charcoal fire and 3 times denied knowing Jesus. So surely when Peter sees that fire, it triggers feelings of pain, guilt, and shame. For this unsuccessful first fishing story is all about Peter, the first disciple called. Peter represents the power of faith, the foundation of spiritual consciousness and understanding. The writer of Hebrews referred to faith as the conviction of things not seen. It is faith that enables us to look past appearances of lack, to perceive and believe in divine ideas, even when we see no evidence in the outer realm. And most of us, like Peter, need time to discover faith, develop it, and allow it to grow. It doesn't usually happen overnight. And our story continues as Jesus singles Peter out for a private session. I think this would kind of be like today, kids being called to the principal's office. And as they walk along the shore together, just Jesus and Peter, Jesus asked Peter not once, not twice, but 3 times a compelling question. He says, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" The Amplified Bible adds, "Do you love me with reasoning, intention, and spiritual devotion?" Actually, the first time Jesus asked the question, he says, "Do you love me more than these?" Now, scholars have long debated about the antecedent of the pronoun these. To what does it refer? I picture Jesus pointing to the fish and saying, "Do you love me more than these fish? More than human fulfillment, more than outer possessions? Do you love me more than your old life? Do you love me enough to follow my teachings?" And each time Jesus asked the question, Peter's passionate response is, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And Jesus issues what Reverend Townley calls Peter's call to ministry. He says, first, then feed my lambs. Secondly, tend my sheep. And thirdly, feed my sheep. Follow me. In other words, put the love you are into service to others, just as I have done. So Jesus' compelling question, repeated 3 times, reminds us, as it must have reminded Peter, of his 3 denials. Yet the question coming from Jesus does not sound punitive. Jesus is not seeking retribution. He addresses Peter by the name he used the first time he called him at this same sea, Simon, son of John, as if Jesus were bringing Peter back to the beginning, erasing all his times of faltered faith. Reverend Townley notes in this moment, Jesus is giving Peter the chance to dissolve all the negative energy of regret, guilt and shame that he had been holding. Even our most powerful spiritual attributes can be distorted by barriers erected in our own human consciousness. There's a saying, if God seems far away, guess who moved? And so Jesus is calling Peter and us to a renewal, a chance to release any barriers we might have built that separate us from godliness and goodness, a chance to restore our faith, to align in our Christ nature. Jesus' final lesson to Peter is that spiritual unfoldment is based on both love and faith. Faith without love will always falter, but faith established in both love and service will be our sustaining power through every hour of our need. So the past is over. Peter is ready to release it and turn to future possibilities. And John's gospel ends shortly after this conversation. In the end, this story is about spiritual consciousness and spiritual understanding. We can work long and hard in the darkness of only human understanding, exhausting and depleting ourselves and catching no divine ideas. We can certainly focus on a dismal diagnosis, a pitiful bank balance, a failing relationship, a fear-provoking pandemic, or we can cast our nets on the side of spiritual truth. With a new perspective and a sense of who we truly are, we move forward in faith and love, connecting to our oneness and courageously accepting our divine mission. We are here to love. We are here to serve. So the next time you go fishing, whether it's for trout or salmon, or for healing, prosperity, divine order, and harmony, ask yourself, am I casting my net on the right side? And let's take just a moment now to turn to that right side where we know the truth about our God. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and at work in my life. God, the good, omnipotent, and so it is.
There's a holy hush around us as God's glory fills the place. I've touched the hem of His garment. I can almost see His face, and my heart is overflowing with the fullness of His joy. I know without a doubt that I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and His grace. I can feel the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
And so I invite you now to close your eyes, relax your body, and take a moment to turn within. Just begin by taking a deep breath, and as you inhale, allow the breath of God to move through you, in you, as you. Hold your breath for a few seconds, feeling Spirit moving gently through you now. And as you exhale, just let go of anything that is keeping you from being fully present to this now moment. As you continue breathing in, breathing out, know the truth that you are at this moment and always immersed in the Holy Spirit of light, love, and wisdom. All that God is everywhere present and fully expressing. And that means God is fully expressing through you now and always. We have all been where Peter was. We have all felt our faith falter. We have denied our indwelling Christ, and we have experienced feelings of guilt, regret, self-doubt, and fear. We have accepted the idea that we are only human when we are so much more. We are on this earth to know and express our spiritual nature. It is our divine mission to be all that we can imagine God to be, to understand that perfect, unconditional love of God stands under us all, is the foundation of all, and the source of all. And so we turn our pivotal souls away from this temporary pandemic to the sure and certain knowledge that we are one in a power greater than any challenge on this physical plane. Our co-founder Charles Fillmore told us that love is a power that joins and binds in divine harmony the universe and everything in it. We claim this love and harmony now. In this sacred time, we set the intention to release any negative energies we have been holding, fear, worry, guilt, or shame. We open our hearts and minds to receive divine guidance about how we can look beyond our appearances to see the good, the true, the beautiful in our lives and in the world. We open our souls to the understanding that we can be the truth, the good, the beautiful for others. We are open and receptive to discovering ways we can love and serve right here, right now. I invite you to contemplate this for a few moments in the silence. And now, as we come together, individually and collectively, we place our faith in the oneness of Spirit, knowing moment by moment, choice by choice, we are here to be God's love on this earth. We claim this in the name and through the power of the eternal Christ presence, and we are so grateful. So it is, and so we joyously allow it to be. Amen.
Before we conclude our service today, we'd like to share some prayer resources with you. At First Unity Church of St. Louis, we are committed to providing ongoing spiritual support for you anytime you need it. We can support you with prayer individually on one of two ways. We have a form on our church website at unitystl.org if you wish to complete that, or you can call the church office at 314-845-8540. Silent Unity Prayer Associates are available to pray directly with you at 816-919-2000. They are currently taking calls from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the evening. During the overnight hours, you have a choice of 3 ways to submit your prayer requests. There's Unity's Facebook page, the You Pray mobile app that you can download on your phone or tablet, or you can go to unity.org/prayer. The newest way to connect with Silent Unity is through Alexa, by saying something like, "Alexa, open positive prayer." You can even ask Alexa for specific prayer topics, including guidance, comfort, and healing. In the coming days, let's use our powers of faith, love, and strength, as Reverend Jan so beautifully explained in her lesson today, to remind us that we are always one in the presence and power of Spirit. This presence and power that is greater than any challenge or fear in this relative world. We are truly in this together. We'll conclude today's service with a YouTube video of our First Unity Choir singing "God in You, God in Me." Our thoughts and prayers are always with you.